Production support for award-winning News 6 has come from the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation and this public television station.
Pandora Gilboa Middle School, home of the Rockets. Welcome to News 6.
On today's show, we'll follow the process of making cider. We'll talk to a man who really keeps an eye on the weather. And we'll see what life on the farm was like for our ancestors.
Hi, I'm Greg Hartzler from Pandora Gilboa Middle School. Welcome to News 6. With our first story, here's Brooke Miller.
Many of us drink cider without knowing all the work that goes into making it. Jerry Suter is an expert when it comes to making apple cider, and he gave us a behind-the-scenes look at the Morning Star press.
Jerry Suter normally runs the cider press on Wednesday and Saturday, but he was nice enough to show us how it worked on a cold Thursday morning.
What kinds of apples do you use for cider?
We usually use about 3 or 4 varieties of apples, some of them sweet and some of them tart apples, and then you have a good mixture for your cider. We start the season with McIntosh, and they're somewhat tart. And then we have Jonathan, our tart, and later season apple that's tart as Cider Red, and people like that one real well. It's like a Jonathan, only a little bigger. And then the sweet apples, we have a yellow and red delicious, and a new variety called Mutsu, Empire, some Stamen wine sap, Paula Reds. That's about all.
How does the Morning Star press operate?
When we operate the press, we start by putting the apples in an elevator, and they go up into what's called a hammer mill, which chops up the apples. And then they fall down into nylon cider claws that are folded up, and it makes like a big square bag. And then we put a wooden rack down on top of that and another cloth, and keep repeating that process. And then we rotate the chopped up apples underneath the press. The press comes down, and the cider runs out. And it's pumped into holding tanks. We either jug it or else refrigerate it for sale later on.
How is this press different from modern-day presses?
We have what's called a belt-driven screw-type press, and there's no hydraulics involved. It was built about 80 years ago.
How did the Morning Star press get its name?
We're not real sure, but what I've come up with is, I know they used to start real early in the morning, and we still do, usually about 4 or 5 in the morning. And it's probably from the hour that we would start pressing cider.
Today's show is being produced by the 6th grade classes at Pandora Gilboa Middle School. The school is located in Gilboa, which is about 17 miles west of Findlay. It was founded in 1832 and has a population of 244.
Observing the weather means a lot more than just watching the clouds go by. We talked to Ray Burkholder to find out just what a weather observer does.
We all watch the weather in our own ways, but Ray Burkholder has his observations down to a science.
I've been interested in the weather since I was in high school. I used to keep records from another station. In fact, it was from the Findlay weather station, and I wrote those down. And then in 1949, the Weather Service set up a station at my home, and they like for a station for you to have a continuous record.
How do you measure one, Steve?
We have an anemometer on top of the house that has 4 cups, and when the wind blows, it makes them go around. Has wires that go into the house, and you read the wind speed in the house and the digital readout. We have 2 gauges to measure rainfall. This is called a non-recording gauge. The area of this funnel that fits on top of the gauge is 8 inches in diameter. The area of the tube in my right hand is 1/10 the area of the large tube. So if you get an inch of rain and it's magnified 10 times, so you have 10 inches to measure to get 1 inch of rain. If you get 2 inches of rain, it fills this small tube up. If you get more than that, it overflows into the big can. This is a solar-powered rain gauge. Every 15 minutes, the tape on this large spool at the bottom goes through the punch block, and when that punch block punches the holes in, that's the noise that you heard just a little bit ago. Then it wraps it onto a spool at the top. At the end of the month, you send that small spool into the Weather Service, and they have a record then of every 15 minutes of rain.
How can I watch the weather at my house?
You can observe the wind speed at your own home by watching the trees. If this small branches move, then that's a certain speed of miles per hour in the wind. If large branches move, then of course that's a higher wind speed. If the tree blows away, then apparently it was a tornado.
Kids View lets 6th graders say what's on their minds. We asked the 6th grade at Pandora Gilboa, if you could have one wish, what would you wish for? Here's what they had to say.
I'd like to be a famous cellist. I'd wish for $1 million. I think I'd like to have one more wish.
When we learn about American history, we're usually sitting in a classroom or reading a book. Heritage Hills gives a hands-on lesson in early American history, and May Baldridge and Linda Moser showed us how.
May Baldridge has kept her family heritage alive for years and now shares it with the people of Northwest Ohio. She showed us what life was like on an early American farm.
We started Heritage Hills in the fall of 1979. The farm has been in the family for many years. In fact, our ancestor, Thomas Harmon, purchased the farm from the state of Ohio in 1830, and it has been in the family ever since, passed from family member to family member. Because of this rich heritage, we decided to open the farm for educational purposes, to teach young people about ways that early children and farmers had lived and the chores they had to do.
On an early American farm, there were a lot of chores, and they were assigned to the different children to do. For instance, there may be wood to carry in, or perhaps water to carry in for drinking, also for washing. There would be hunting that would need to be done, and also perhaps butchering, as well as the animals to tend to. And the children would have to also help with these. If they would neglect to do their chores for the day, then the whole family would suffer.
How did they travel back then?
People traveled very slowly a long time ago due to road conditions, and all of their rides were pulled by horses. If you were going with a heavy wagon loaded with furniture or food, you would probably go about 3 to 5 miles an hour. So you would travel very slowly. It was difficult because there were no springs or anything to keep the wagons from shaking, and therefore it was very rough and bumpy. It was very tiring.
That's all for this week's show. Join us next week when U6 travels to Continental Ohio.